Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Just this morning, we had another really big earnings call for a massive company. American Airlines actually reported their earnings call this morning on October 22nd. Today is Thursday, and as you can see, so far they're starting out the day not too hot, despite beating their earnings call by a significant amount. Obviously now airlines have very low expectations. All travel and entertainment and everything, it's so down, obviously because of the coronavirus and all this stuff that's going on. We all know that, but their expectations are so low, so them beating their earnings report even by a significant amount still means very deep amounts of cash just burning, deep amounts of debt piling on, and they actually made call outs for renewed calls for aid in their kind of talkings of what's going on and how their company is doing and all that stuff. So in the medium to long term, that is probably not a great sign. Obviously, when we take a look at the stock in the last month, it's traded relatively flat. It's had some little ups and downs here and there. Over the course of 3 months, though, it's actually up 12%. This is something that is rebounding a little bit. People are actually taking flights now, and this is something that in like April and May, we really saw travel numbers go way down. We've kind of seen them hit like a bottom and start to slowly maybe be rising up. Obviously, this doesn't necessarily mean that American Airlines or travel or anything or just the world in general is bouncing back all the way or even bouncing back at all anytime soon. It's going to be really interesting to see how the winter goes, if the disease continues to spread, if numbers spike, if people stop traveling again. What are people going to do for Christmas? Are we going to see a bunch of travel and spending and stuff? Or are we going to see one of the most frugal, travel lists, vacation lists, Christmas gift lists, holiday seasons, in recent memory? It's going to be interesting to see. But also, another big thing to take from this earnings report is that the American Airlines CEO, this is something I've seen people talk about a lot, but it's interesting to see them hammering home on this again, that they're going to need business travelers to return in order to bounce back. That is such a big part of these businesses, of these airlines, is getting the business travel, getting these people spending a ton of money on traveling very constantly and consistently, for business ventures, having to travel across the country, having to obviously sit in like first class and stuff and spending all this money, and those are some of their main customers, and getting business travel is going to be a huge thing. Obviously people traveling for vacation and stuff, it's always going to be some chunk of their business, and again, that is rebounding a little bit. We're seeing flight numbers increase somewhat. We are not seeing all-time lows in terms of travel or just flights in general. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean these companies are in any better of a spot. If we take a look at the earnings, obviously in quarter one, they missed by a little tiny bit. In quarter two, they were pretty much spot on. They did end up missing by a little tiny bit. But now we're seeing for the first time them overperforming expectations. They were expected to lose $5.88 per share. They only ended up losing $5.54 per share. Obviously, those numbers are still terrible. You still don't want to see that, because up in here, they're making like $1.50 per share pretty consistently. So we're way down. And again, if we take a look at the graph, I mean, we're down around 60% year to date. And over the course of 5 years, if you're looking at all-time highs, we're down, around 80%. So this isn't anything great. It's not necessarily great news. But I don't think I don't think it's a bad time if you thought that, hey, maybe I'm going to start getting into airline positions a little bit. I have picked up a little bit of airline positions. I've picked up a little bit of cruise line positions. I'm not expecting to make money on those anytime soon, but these are just kind of, I think, long-term bets, definitely with risk, because these companies are taking on so much debt. There is bankruptcy risk. There is risk that in the next 2 to 3 years, they never rebound, and your money would be so much better elsewhere if these companies don't even continue to go down further, or if we don't even see like bankruptcy filed with one of these major travel companies or entertainment companies, casinos, anything like that, as they continue to just pile on debt and bleed out money and stuff. They're going to need aid. Again, they're renewing calls for aid again, and it'll be interesting to see what the election has to do with that. What's Trump's plan going to be? What's Biden's plan going to be? How are these companies going to react to this? But yeah, so even though American Airlines did beat their earnings today, they are performing better than expected. Still, we've seen the stock go down, even though, again, right after the earnings report, it tried to bounce up. The earnings came out at around 8. It tried to come up, but then it has since dropped back down, and we'll see how it trades throughout the day. It's going to be interesting. I think there is some good news. Obviously, finally beating expectations could mean we're at the beginning of maybe a slow uphill climb, but obviously the things that the company is saying, like posting deep losses, renewing calls for aid, saying they need business travelers to return, and business travel probably not returning anytime soon, doesn't really bode well for investors in the short to medium term. But I still think these are all interesting long-term plays. I still think, eventually one day, who knows how many years it's going to be, we we could see numbers, get even up into the 20s, I think is realistic. If it ever gets back to the 30s, that'd obviously be an insane investment for people around the 12 area. It's bounced as low as 9. But we've been trading relatively flat between 11 and 13 for a while now. So I don't think it's too terrible of a time to pick up some airline shares. If you thought that was a good idea, I wouldn't say that's terrible. Obviously, none of this is investment or financial advice or anything. I'm just kind of documenting my thoughts and talking about stocks and stuff that interests me. But yeah, I'm really, really curious to see how this is going to play out. As far as other stocks to watch out for because of this news, if airlines are going to continue to say that they're going to need calls for aid and they need business travel to come back and they're going to continue to perform poorly, that does kind of bode well for tech stocks in a way. Obviously, we still have a ton of tech earnings coming up. This is a crazy time for tech stocks. They're on a lot of people's radar. But if the world continues to live in this coronavirus craziness where we're having to stay indoors and do everything remotely and electronically, a lot of tech stocks could really, really benefit from that. Obviously, the main one everyone's going to be talking about is Zoom. If people aren't doing business travel, they're going to be doing business meetings some way, and Zoom could be that way. Obviously, Zoom is a very, very risky, very volatile stock. It's seen highs of around 600, and it's down to about 520 right now. But over the course of 3 months, it's up 90%. Over the course of the year, it's up 700%. It's obviously an interesting stock that a lot of people think is overvalued currently, but it's going to be a big winner if quarantines and online business and everything stays going the way it is. I also think Shopify is another one who could see some really, really great benefits from airlines and travel and everything continuing to stay down. Obviously, they're up 8% on the month and around 5% in 3 months. They haven't been doing as well recently, but they're still on my radar. And finally, another one is Square that I would be watching out for. Online transactions, online business, all that stuff getting done. Square is going to be one that is going to continue to see great benefits until we kind of see the world return to normal. And if we don't see the world return to normal in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, online businesses and online shopping and all this stuff is going to continue to thrive. So again, I have some airline positions. I have some cruise line positions. I don't think slowly starting to build your positions into those companies in the long term is a terrible idea. But I'm not expecting to make money on those in the next coming months or maybe even the next coming year. At least not too much money. At least I don't have great growth expectations. But I still think in the long term it's a nice safety net to have and something that could perform really, really well over the course of the next 5 years if you're getting into super long term stuff. But yeah, I think that these tech companies are really, really interesting right now. And I think there's no reason to be too worried about them. We're not getting great travel news, great news about the world returning to normal, nothing too great about the virus just yet, vaccines, anything like that. Those are things I'd be worrying about for tech. But yeah, until then, that's what we got going on today. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed this video, guys. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about American Airlines? Are you investing in the travel now? Do you think it's a good time to buy, or are you still holding out? What other companies are you guys looking at? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe to update on all my latest content. Hopefully I catch you guys on the next one. But until then, peace.